And we'll kick things off with Cardiff, shall we? Because they're continuing to search for their new manager following the sacking of Eric Bullitt at the weekend. The latest we've got is there aren't any concrete reports with regards to replacements. The current bookies' favourite for the job, get this, Mark Hughes. Also amongst them are some interesting names. Of course, we've got the recently departed Stoke manager Steven Schumacher, the Wales assistant manager James Rowberry, ex-Cardiff defender Darren Pearce, who's now a coach in their under-23s, and Nathan Jones, who is always worth mentioning, is a Cardiff fan. A special mention has to go to a guy called Freya Alexanderson. Now, he's the manager of Belgian side KV Kortrijk, who are owned by none other than Vincent Tan. But reports in Belgium had claimed that Alexanderson was in talks with Cardiff for the job, but he's since denied that and says he'll be staying put. So, sounds like that one's not happening. Anyway, what do you think of these options I've mentioned here, Justin?
Dropped a grenade in there, haven't you? What do you think of these options? Let's
not very impressed then, I'm guessing.
Let's whittle them down. Mark Hughes. I mean, if you're getting Mark Hughes of the Blackburn era and the Stoke era where he delivered 3 top 10 finishes in 3 years, then sure, it's great. But the last Mark Hughes I saw was struggling at Bradford. So there's that. James Rowberry always seems to get linked with the job. He's a highly rated coach, I will add. He's now with the Welsh national side, one of Craig Bellamy's assistants, so he's still highly rated, and obviously he's got experience at Cardiff. Might be a good option, but again, he's been linked with the job in previous years. Darren Pearce makes sense because he's hold on, he's an internal appointment, and Cardiff like to go for the cheaper option, as we very well know. Okay. Mark Hudson and Steve Morrison. I did read that Darren Pearce did his UEFA Pro license with Mile Jedinak and David Ancelotti, who's obviously Carlo Ancelotti's son at Real Madrid.
Fantastic. Well, that's always
could work out. Steven Schumacher is a bit of a strange one. Obviously, he just left Stoke, but everything points in the direction of him he shouldn't go to Cardiff just because of I think the lack of direction that Cardiff have is not really a suitable structure for a head coach like Steven Schumacher. And Nathan Jones is the obvious candidate here that, obviously being a good football manager, but he's Cardiff through and through, so that's why he gets linked with the job. And it's, there being no concrete reports is more of a concern, I think, because it tells me that Cardiff weren't prepared for life post Errol Bullitt.
And is that really a surprise?
No.
Let's be honest. Yeah, I would always say take the bookies' odds at this stage with a pinch of salt, because when it's early on and the odds are what they are in this circumstance, they have about as much of an idea as the rest of us about who the next manager is going to be. Hence why Mark Hughes is the favourite. And if it's Mark Hughes, then Christ alive. Steven Schumacher and Nathan Jones, they'd be sensible, I suppose, wouldn't they? Although I'm led to believe Cardiff have paid out a fair bit of money to Eric Bullitt to, compensate for him losing his job. So they would probably like to avoid paying compensation on a manager who is already at a club, which could rule out someone like Nathan Jones. Darren Pearce, very random. James Rowberry, I think, is quite an interesting one. But as we were saying on Sunday, Justin, Cardiff's board are so unpredictable that we could sit here for hours listing off names and not even come close to who actually gets the job.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the frustrating thing, and that's probably why they need a style of manager that's going to be in control of the situation, if that makes sense. I don't think a head coach structure will work, as I was alluding to, because for that to work, you need a sound platform upstairs. You need a clear philosophy and direction from the top, which Cardiff don't have. And you only got to look at the past appointments they've made to really understand that, really, because they've been you've gone from a Mick McCarthy type and a Neil Harris type to a Steve Morrison who wanted to play out from the back, and then you've gone from Sabri Lamouchi to Errol Bullitt, who then then became a very solid structure at Cardiff, then to trying to play out the back, and it just nothing's worked because it's the club's directionless, the ownership's absent. So I think you're just left with a pool of managers who are probably in a position where they need to prove themselves, unless you go abroad and just completely surprise everybody with what you can possibly go for.
Yeah. Well, let's put you in that situation again then, Justin. Just like
am I the technical director again?
You're the sporting director, the technical director. You're some sort of director at Stoke. Not at Stoke. You were at Stoke before, but now you've moved to Cardiff City. Cardiff. Congratulations on the new job.
I don't know about that, but yeah.
Your first task is getting a new manager in. Who'd you go for?
Well, the initial thing I'm thinking of here is I need a manager who's a little bit of a firefighter, who I know is going to stop the team leaking goals, but he's also going to put a tactical, a philosophy in place that is going to slowly but surely improve the attack. It's a bit cliche to point this out, but I think Alex Neil would be a fairly good appointment. And the reason why I say this is because when he initially took charge of Preston and Sunderland, the teams were leaking goals. He came in, stripped it all back, got them defending first, and then slowly but surely they improved. And Stoke aside, he has left clubs in a better position when they found him. I know Preston sort of stagnated a bit, but they were a solid mid-table club. Still are at the moment, but finding their way again. So I do think an Alex Neil type would be a good appointment, and also he's that type of manager who I think would be in control of a situation. He doesn't need a club structure to come into. He can just be a manager. He recruits the players that he wants to recruit, as we've seen at the likes of Preston, and less so at Stoke. But we saw a little bit Daniel Johnson and whatnot going there. But I think an Alex Neil type would work because, as I say, he ticks all the right boxes, and I think he's that middle ground. I think to what they probably want to go for, which is a manager who wants to play out from the back.
Interesting. I don't think it's a ridiculous shout when you've actually explained it, Justin. I think if I was now in charge of Cardiff City, I mean, the first thing I would do is sack the chairman, Mehmet Dalman, because I'm not sure he's ever had a clue what he's doing. But if we're talking about just managers, then they need to go in a different direction to what they have, because they've been so short-sighted with their thinking for so long that I did a whole YouTube video on how short-sighted they've been with their appointments in recent years. It's the main reason why they've been on this decline for so long. You can't just keep getting in a manager to improve things in the short term, sack them when things aren't going so well, and expect that to work out in the long term when you're just doing the same thing over and over again. Cardiff need to start from scratch. So the first thing I would do is get a sporting director or a director of football in, because the football decisions need to be made by people who actually understand football. And I'm not sure Vincent Tan, Mehmet Dalman, those kind of people who are currently at the top of Cardiff have any clue what they're doing. Mm-hmm. And then I would get that sporting director or director of football to appoint a young coach and start building with them. Just leave them in charge of the coaching side of things, whereas you've got a sporting director who's in charge of the signings and what have you. Because if I understand things correctly, I think Eric Bullock was in charge of basically everything. And when you sack that manager, that leaves you in a bit of a sticky situation when it comes to trying to replace them. But the bottom line is, we almost need systemic change at Cardiff, I think. Whether that actually happens or not, I highly doubt it, though, Justin.
It won't happen. It won't happen because Vincent Tan is as stubborn as they come. I mean, you've only got to look at changing the shirts to red, despite fan furor against that. It is decisions like that give you the indication that this person's never going to change. And what we've seen after that is, bad decision after bad decision after bad decision. Best decision the club made was Neil Warnock. And obviously Neil Warnock came in to essentially guide the club to safety, and it worked out very, very, very well in the end because he took the club up, because he did what Neil Warnock does. He takes control of the situation. And like you said, the club needs a sporting director, technical director, head in to come in and move the football in a direction where the football needs to go. And what I mean by that is, the club's very good at promoting academy players into the first team. They're very good at developing players as well, and we see less of that now. We see less of those opportunities for those young players. And in addition to that, the transfer strategies is bizarre. I know they've had transfer embargoes of late for reasons that have been out of their control, but again,
I wouldn't say out of their control, Justin. Maybe somewhat in their control.
Yeah, somewhat in their control, somewhat out of their control.
Yeah. If you don't know why, then we won't get into that here, but it's to do with the whole Emiliano Sala saga, which we just won't get into here. But I get what you're saying, Justin, that everything just... That's why I said there needs to be systemic change at Cardiff, because this club just clearly... The people at the top just don't know what they're doing, do they? And that's why we keep seeing them going downwards and downwards in the table. Sure, they had the one season last season, which was an up, but it feels like it was a bit of an anomaly in that regard, didn't it?
Well, the consistency they've had over recent years is a trend downwards. And yeah, like you said, it was very much an anomaly last season. But that being said, they were in a position where they were playing to the team's strengths, and then they stopped doing that this summer, which is very surprising from Errol Bullett. I know they tried to bring in players that sort of suited a system that was a bit more progressive and a bit more sort of pass it through the thirds, but it's just not. It's just not the way this team is built to play. Even just looking at the personnel, and that's what I mean with the transfer strategy. They're just stuck in this whirlpool of confusion, and there's no direction, and there's different opinions and different strategies, and it's just this whirlpool just swirling around constantly. And unfortunately, it's now getting to the point where the water's nearly empty. The water's nearly empty, and that means League One.
It's been circling the drain. They've been circling the drain, Justin,
exactly.
For too long, and eventually, when you keep doing that for a certain amount of time, you will go down the plug hole at some point. And let's be honest, would it be a surprise if that did happen to Cardiff this season? I don't think it would, because of, as we say, the fact that they've just been going downwards and downwards for so long and not really had any idea of how to get out of the whirlpool. Justin, let's take a quick break. After that, we'll talk about Sunderland signing a new striker and a lot of stadium news. Welcome back to the Second Tier podcast. So even though the transfer window closed a few weeks ago, we've still got clubs making some signings, and it includes Sunderland. They've brought in Aaron Connolly on a 1-year contract. The 24-year-old has been a free agent since leaving Hull in the summer. Scored 8 goals in 24 championship appearances last season. What do you think, Justin Peach?
I think it's a good signing. I do. I think... He's had an enigmatic career, hasn't he, Aaron Connolly? In that, he's been on loan at several places, had a lot of early promise at Brighton. It's never really worked out, and he seemed to find somewhere comfortable at Hull, where we saw him get to his best form. Scoring 8 in 29 last season is a decent return. I think it is. I think it's a decent return for a player who, probably still wasn't viewed as a first choice option. And I think his career got going back in the right direction up on Humberside, but it's just he obviously didn't renew his contract. Tried to find out why, but I just couldn't. So I imagine the club just wanted to go in a different direction. But as I say, for a rotation option for Sunderland, I think it's a very good signing, because you've got a good potential for a goal scorer there, and he adds depth in it, a much needed depth in a position where Sunderland need depth.
Yeah, and I completely agree, really, Justin. I don't think he's going to start many games this season, considering the form of Elijah Mayenda so far. But Connolly had an unbelievable start to last season with Hull before things really dropped off with him. He had another little purple patch around Christmas, actually, but then lost his place and didn't really get another look in at Hull. But look, he's still only 24. Mm-hmm. Time is very much on his side, isn't it? He was very highly rated at Brighton just a few years ago. Not had much luck in recent years, despite several loan moves since then. But the bottom line here is, what's the risk for Sunderland? It's a free transfer. I don't think his wages will be massive. You give him a year, see what he can do. If it doesn't work out, Sunderland say, thanks for all your effort. Best of luck with your career. You let him go and everyone forgets about it. If it does work out, then it's a masterstroke. So it's worth the gamble, isn't it? The thing is as well, he's going to give it his all, because he needs this move to work out. Because how many other chances is he going to get at this level? Probably this may very well be his last chance at championship level.
I would say so, because I think the surprise there is you look at his goal return. I know football clubs will look at things in a lot more detail than just his goal return. And obviously, like you said, his start to the last season was great before it did drop off. But there is a player there who's got goal scoring quality. He's very good in the box. He's very hard working. He's got a turn of pace about him as well. He ticks a lot of boxes for a forward. Doesn't have height on his side, which I know is you'd argue that it's quite an easy thing to sort of judge him down on. But a lot of teams will see that and go, well, how can he lead a line when he's, I don't want to offend him, 5'8", I assume.
Where are you going with this?
What I'm saying is there's things that have probably not worked in his favour this summer, like his drop off last season, like his probably his physical attributes, and it was a surprise to see a club not take a gamble on him over the summer. But Sunderland, I don't think are taking a gamble. I don't think it's a gamble for anybody here. I think it's a good move for Sunderland, good move for Connolly. Got him until the end of the season. If they can get 5-6 goals out of him, you'd be buzzing. But Connolly, as you say, needs this to work out because it is his last chance at championship level for probably potentially dropping down to League One if it doesn't work out.
Yeah. Well, he's still 24. Time is on his side, but considering how much he has struggled at so many different clubs now, he needs this one to work out. So that's why I think it could end up being a good move. But at the same time, if it doesn't, then as I say, everyone just moves on with their lives, don't they? Let's go to Leeds. They've announced plans to increase the capacity of Ellen Road to 53,000. It can currently hold just over 37,500 fans. It's been full for every home match played there in the last 6 years, and there are also 26,000 supporters on the waiting list for season tickets. So, looks like a big statement of intent from Leeds, Justin, would you say?
It always intrigues me. They are averaging near sellouts or near capacity, I should say, every week. So there's clearly demand there. And obviously the season ticket waiting list is absolutely huge. There will be still some disappointed fans on that waiting list. I'm trying to do the numbers in my head. 26,000, it's not 52. What was it, 52,000 they're expanding to?
They're expanded to 53,000.
Yeah, 53. So there's going to still be some disappointed fans there. But I think it's obviously a move the club needs to make, but it's probably a move that the club is making with the Premier League in mind, because having a 53,000 seater stadium in the Championship doesn't make a lot of sense. But there's still demand there, which again is just a bizarre thing. You don't really see that with clubs that drop from the top flight into the Championship.
Well, it goes without saying that Leeds are obviously a massive club, aren't they? And so if the demand is there to increase it, then it's just common sense to do that, isn't it? But I think it is also worth saying that they are clearly looking at this and saying we will be a Premier League club again sooner rather than later. So we need to start planning for that. I mean, when you've got the 49ers, Red Bull and loads of random celebrities investing in the club, I don't think it's outrageous to say that will be the case, that they will be in the Premier League again sooner rather than later. Whether they get promoted this season or not is another question. But assuming they do become a Prem side once again, that demand will only continue to be massive, won't it? And Leeds are probably missing out on a lot of money each season because they can't fit more fans into Ellen Road. So it's exciting stuff. So I just hope they sort out the away end and give away supporters a better view. That's what I would say, Justin.
I was going to say the main stand does need work, which I think is the West Stand. It desperately needs it. It's dated, old, and not a nice experience as an away supporter. I mean, that's my experience in that West Stand. I think it is the North and the West, or the South and the West Stand that are getting done. Apparently, they brought in acoustic experts to ensure the ground maintains its atmosphere, which obviously is imperative. But yeah, they I don't know how expanding a stand would you just immediately lose all the atmosphere.
No, I don't know how that works.
We're not acoustic experts, but
I suppose if you're far away from the pitch, like in some sort of ground that's got a running track around it or
London
something
Stadium.
like that makes sense.
Yeah.
The London Stadium, I suppose, is a good example. But you often do hear about this, and I don't really understand, because I'm, first of all, not an acoustic expert, how some stadiums are affected by that. I know the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, they kept going on about, the acoustics for it are fantastic to really get the atmosphere growing, and I just don't get it.
No, but it's absolutely spot on. I think it is quite proactive from the ownership to be doing that, because that is one of the unique aspects of Ellen Road. Oh, yeah. So losing that, I mean, Leeds will be a bloody League Two club without that atmosphere. Yeah?
I don't know about that.
It's a joke. But it's one of those things that the club needs to maintain, because the one thing I hate about new grounds, and I think Ellen Road's been going since 1919, something ridiculous like that. One thing I hate about new grounds is just they do have no absolutely no soul. I'm talking about it's not critical, but the Riverside Pie Pot stadiums, when they're built upon an architectural plan, not a plan, but they copy and paste basically. They copy and paste.
Okay,
don't want that.
Want it to still have character.
Keep it character. Keep it old fashioned. Keep it unique.
Well, speaking of which, the new pictures have been released for Luton Town's new stadium. Have you seen these, Justin? The flashy designs for the arena called Power Court have been revealed after the club submitted plans to the local council. It will hold 25,000 fans, and it's hoped it'll be built by 2027. You can see the pictures on the second tier Twitter from Tuesday night, but what do you think, Justin? It's very snazzy, isn't it? Bit of an upgrade on Kenilworth Road.
It's too nice, isn't it? Luton fans have been wondering how they got so lucky. I mean, it's built upon a very good structure at the club. A lot of longevity has been put into it. A lot of clubs can learn from it because they've had so much success over the years that they're getting to the point where they can build a new stadium. That is exactly the direction you want to go in. But it looks fantastic. The architectural designs they look great. I will add that they are meant to look amazing to get planners on board and everyone on board. I'm not saying it won't look like that, but
I was going to say, what are you doing here?
What I'm saying is, show me that on a wet Tuesday night. Then I'll get the feeling of is this going to work for me? It doesn't have to work for me, but I want Kenilworth Road. I don't want new, exciting, flashy stuff.
Yeah, well, I love Kenilworth Road, don't get me wrong, but it does feel like Luton do need to move on from Kenilworth Road at some point, especially if they have ambitions to be a Premier League club. I like the fancy floodlights. It's like a little halo around the stadium. It's very cool, and I just thought that was the most eye-catching aspect for me.
But this is the funny thing about architectural designs is they make it look really nice, and then they start to budget these things, and then it's like, oh shit, it's too expensive. Let's just get the old. Yeah,
are you an architecture expert all of a sudden?
No, but that's why Wembley went from it cost over £1 billion, didn't it? Because
yes, but this isn't Wembley, Justin.
No, but I'm talking about costs. They go up. You go from a halogen bulb to an LED. Jesus, that's expensive. Expensive.
Fine.
I'm just saying.
Maybe they hadn't considered that. Yeah, maybe that's the issue here. I will say I didn't realise this company that have designed the stadium, they're the same people who designed the Mercedes-Benz Arena in Atlanta, which remains by far the most ridiculous stadium I've ever set foot in, Justin. It looks like a spaceship from the outside. It's insane.
Yeah. Is it air conditioned as well?
I don't know. It was pretty cool when I was in there.
Yeah, I might be getting mixed up with the minute. Yeah.
Basically, it was like if you designed your own stadium as a kid, that's how it would look. It had the comfiest seats you could imagine. It had screens everywhere. It was just ridiculously cool.
Again, this is why I don't want Luton to move, because that away experience is genuinely it's horrendous. It's horrible. It's horrible. I'm uncomfortable. I'm not
at Kenilworth Road.
At Kenilworth Road. I'm not enjoying it. I don't want comfy seats. I don't want to be relaxing. I want to have to bend my ankles at 90 degrees because I can't fit my feet on the concourse. That's
maybe they can pay homage to Kenilworth Road and make sure that the away end is situated in someone's gardens, so that the away fans still have to go through people's gardens to get there.
What they should do as well, they should replicate that in the Natural History Museum, the Football Museum. Just lift that and put it there, because that is a piece of heritage right there.
Yeah. Really make it give any visitors the full experience of what it's like to walk through someone's houses and gardens to get into the away end at Kenilworth Road.
No spoilers. If anyone's been to Harry Potter Studios, there's a massive Hogwarts at the end of the tour. They should do that either at the new stadium at Power Court, make a replica of that away stand with the houses, or obviously at the Football Museum in Manchester. Because
I'm thinking just at the same Harry Potter studio tour that I've been on, the Forbidden Forest bit, where you are basically inside the Forbidden Forest. Just have something like that.
Just build terrace houses at the end of the stadium.
Yeah, that's exactly what I want
for the
to
sake
see.
of it.
And then, spoiler alert, but when you go to the Forbidden Forest bit at Harry Potter Studios, there's these spiders that come down. But instead of having spiders come down...
It's people hanging their washing.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was going to say. You have bloody Doris's knickers flying in your face halfway through. Let's move on. The Telegraph is reporting Derby County is seeking new investors to boost their spending power after returning to the Championship. Club owner David Clowes is said to be open to selling up to 80% of his shareholding, but intends to remain as chairman if any deal is agreed. And while Derby are not in negotiations with any party at this stage, they've received a wave of interest after their return to the Championship. What do you think, Justin, being a Derby fan? You excited by this?
I am excited. I think, firstly, what does a wave of interest look like? Is it an email? Is it a letter? Is it a phone call? Is it a text?
I assume it's just more than it was when you were in League One.
But like, are these Americans just going, hey, David, I actually quite like the look of this club. Do you fancy a team's call or something? Do you know what I mean? It's a bizarre concept to try and think about, but... Moving on to a more serious point, it is good news. It's part of the business plan. I think that's worth pointing out. And I think David Clowes wanting to stay on as chairman is a positive thing as well, because it ensures the club doesn't lose its identity, keeps it on the same path. Steve Parish has done a similar thing at Crystal Palace. They've got a wealth of US investors, but he still sits solely as chairman, which again is, as I say, is a good thing, because the club needs to retain its identity, because it lost it under Mel Morris because they got too flash, too spendy, and too stupid, exactly. Whereas now I think under David Clowes there's a sensibility there.
Yeah. I'm not sure how much that may potentially put off investors, David Clowes wanting to stay in there, but I think it is a good move from him because he is a Derby fan, isn't he? And he will 100% fully respect the interests of the club. But yeah, this is obviously good news for Derby, and if it does happen and they do get some interest, that will obviously be great, because as far as I'm aware, David Clowes, I was going to say one of the poor owners in the Championship. That'd be a poor choice of words. He's one of the less wealthy owners in the Championship. I think that's fair to say. He was very much thrust into the spotlight just to save Derby from oblivion, wasn't he? And he just came in like a superhero and saved them right at the death. And I don't think he really intended for this to be the case, but he just felt like he had no choice when Derby were on death's door. So, he's a Derby legend, and he will want to make sure that the club stays in the right hands, won't he? Instead of, some lunatic taking over from God knows where.
Yeah, exactly. He's only worth 300 million as well. Really, really poor.
Yeah, only
worth 300 million. He's not a penny.
Next thing you know, he'll be accepting donations for clothes, won't he?
But you are right.
Our American listeners will not understand that at all, but that's fine.
He is a legend. I think anyone who puts up a large sum of money, pays off their debts, buys the ground back from an absolute madman, deserves the freedom of the city, because he is the definition of a football saviour. You need more of owners like David Clowes, which is why they need to stay within clubs. In Germany they've got this 51%. I think this is as close as you get to it over here. You won't never adopt it over here, but this will do. This will do.
Yeah. I think that's a very good point, Justin. Very spot on. And finally, the FA has confirmed it's investigating after Preston's Militon Osmajic appeared to bite Blackburn's Owen Beck during their game on Sunday. The Football Association says it's aware of the incident and will be looking into it. I think Osmajic could be facing quite a big ban here, Justin.
Well, the Suarez ban, it was 10 or 12 games, wasn't it?
It was 10.
He almost... I know you've got to probably treat them as a case-by-case basis. I know Owen Beck's tackle was a pretty rash one and not very sensible from him. But this obviously is incident completely overshadows any of that. But you have to take it as a case-by-case basis with these things, because they're so unique. They never happened. You never expect another person to bite another person on a football pitch. It's quite mad that we have to talk about it. These are grown adults. It's ridiculous. But as I say, it's case-by-case basis. Do you almost have to sort of go, rather than a 10-game ban, you go 2-month ban or a 3-month ban? Do you know what I mean?
I'm not really sure. I mean, 8 games, 10 games is basically 2 months anyway. But I don't know how you look at this on a case-by-case basis, Justin, because how do you differentiate between the seriousness of a bite. You've either bitten someone or you haven't you?
Well, was Ivanovic left with a bruise like Owen Beck was?
Well, I don't know, but it just seems like surely it's just a flat ban. If Suarez got 10 games, then why does Zmajic deserve more or less? It's got to be said, it's a disgusting thing to do, isn't it? So whatever happens, you should get a massive punishment for it, because it's not like it's a bad tackle where you can say, well, maybe he was going for the ball. When you bite someone, you just want to hurt them. I mean, that goes without saying, doesn't it?
Yeah, you can't really speak of his intentions. He may have just got overzealous.
Don't think that's an excuse, Justin.
Do you know when, again, slightly off topic, dogs sometimes gnaw on you out of affection? Now, I'm not saying Zmajic was being affectionate towards Owen Beck, but perhaps there's a misunderstanding.
I don't think so. Do dogs gnaw out of kindness?
Yeah. Some do. They do it. It's a comfortability thing. And whilst Zmajic might have been trying to be comfortable around Owen Beck, but he was a bit too hands on. Nevertheless, I don't think that's the case.
One way of putting it.
Yeah, I don't think that's the case. I think it was an act of aggression, but I'm just trying to play devil's advocate here.
Yeah, okay. You defend the man who tried to bite someone's neck. That's always a good position. Yeah, that's always a good position to put yourself in. We've all finished with this quote from John Eustace regarding the bite. He said, "It's a very serious incident. No one likes to be bitten." Thanks, John.
Well, it's true. It's both very serious. And who likes to be bitten? Do you like to be bitten?
No, I don't. But I just thought, yeah, you're not wrong there, John. Thanks for pointing that one out.
Spot on. No one likes to be bitten. John Eustace, put it in quote marks above the tunnel. Let's go.
Yeah, to remind players not to bite each other.
And there's that.
Yeah, really goes without saying, really, shouldn't it?